Hey, good morning, it's Owen Bigland. This is the Inside Edge video blog. Over the last year or so, I've had a lot of my viewers ask me about which is the better buy. Buying an older condo in Vancouver, concrete or wood frame, or leaning more towards something that's newer, 1, 2, 3, 4 years old or so. So it's a good question. It's a question that I've addressed a little bit over the years on my blog, but I thought I'd address it here again, and I'm probably going to do some more videos on this in the future as well. Now, it all depends. There's a lot of variables here, buying older or buying new. What I will tell you is that whenever possible, I do think that there is probably better opportunities right now buying an older, quality older concrete unit. And I'm going to give you the pros and cons to buying older or buying newer, and I'm going to give you an example here. For this situation, I'm going to talk about the West End in Vancouver. Now, the West End, in my personal opinion, is a little bit underrated. I truly think that the West End is the gem of downtown Vancouver real estate. It's one of the reasons why I own properties in the West End, and I'm actually in the process of buying another property in the West End right now as we speak, an older concrete building that I'm going to be getting the keys on in late May and doing a full reno on. So let me talk about the pros and cons here. First off, then there's cons to both. Buying new, of course, people like shiny and new because you definitely have, it's concrete, there's nothing to do, you can move into it, kick up your feet. But the problem with a lot of new construction, in my opinion, right now, what's going up in Vancouver, is the locations. And I've blogged about this many times before. Location, it's the golden rule of real estate. I've also talked about how we ran out of grade A building sites many years ago in Vancouver, and we started moving on to B and mostly C locations now. So most of these new condo developments, in my opinion, are in poor locations. They're shoehorned beside bridges or the on-ramp or off-ramp to a bridge. The vast majority of them are on busy thoroughfares, busy streets with traffic, heavy traffic, 15 to 20 hours a day, 7 days a week. So unfortunately, that's all that's left. The city is zoning these for apartments and multifamily now because they're near transportation, buses, and SkyTrain. So sure, it's new condo, but the locations, in my opinion, on these are pretty poor. The other thing that people like about new construction is, you know, the floor plans tend to be a little bit more modern. They're an open floor plan. Now, let's go to the West End in Vancouver. Part of the problem with the West End is that probably more than 50% of the entire stock in the West End is either rental housing or co-op or leasehold property. So there are not a lot of condos for sale in the West End. I'm going to say probably 35% is probably stratified. Of that, most of it is going to be older buildings, 30, 35, 40-year-old buildings. There's a bit of new construction in the West End, but it's pretty slim. Now, if you can get some of these older concrete buildings in the West End that are stratified, many of them are on beautiful, quiet, tree-lined streets. Location is an A+. Walking distance to the beach, walking distance to stores and shops, and again, it's the quiet streets that many of these new construction locations do not have. As a matter of fact, again, most of them are on hideously busy streets, and you don't really feel the impact of that until you move into one of these units overlooking 2nd Ave or Main Street or Knight Street or Cambie or Quebec, and it's constant traffic. So there are some fantastic opportunities in the West End, but there are some pitfalls. First off, there's a lot of older wood frame stuff in the West End. Unless it's been rain screened, you could be looking at some major levies coming down the road. So this is your realtor's responsibility. You want a realtor who knows the West End and what buildings are good and what buildings are probably best to be avoided right now until they address some of these remediation issues they've got. But there are some West End buildings, including some that I own in, that are, I think, absolute gems. They are mid-rise concrete. They're usually sitting on large parcels of land. They have park-like settings on the ground floor and in the backyard area. Some of them might have a nice outdoor pool. Many of them, some of the ones that I follow and I've sold into recently, have had major remediation work done. And that all has to do with the owner base that's in that building and how proactive they are. But there are several buildings in the West End, one in particular, that has had about $7 or $8 million recently done to it over the last 3 years. Windows, roofs, elevator upgrades, lobbies, plumbing, electrical. It's a 29-year-old building, but it's basically brand new. And now the downside to some of these older buildings, though, is the interiors of these buildings aren't up to what a lot of people are looking for, especially young buyers. They tend to be broken up rooms, small living rooms, galley kitchens that are closed in. But in a lot of cases, you can renovate those units, open up a few walls, and create a lot of excellent value there. But the thing is you don't want to spend $150,000 on a reno if the building isn't up to par as well. So it's getting that combination. The strata's in good order. They've taken care of a lot of remediation work. If you can get the right unit at the right price, especially ones that are old and original, as I say, you can renovate them and add a tremendous amount of value. But the big thing that I like about the West End and why I'm getting a lot more buyers into the West End right now is those quiet streets. You can't replicate this real estate anymore. The stuff that they're building right now doesn't have a scratch on some of these older buildings in the West End. So for that reason, I am steering a lot more buyers into the West End or more established neighborhoods. And geez, I blogged about it a couple of weeks ago about now how Mount Pleasant is selling at $1,200 and $1,300 a square foot. These are on busy streets. For about $1,000 a square foot to $1,200 a square foot, you can get a solid concrete older unit in the West End that sure, you're going to need to put some renovations into, but a far superior location that I think in the long run will appreciate much better. So there are pros and cons to both, but again, it takes a good realtor to weed out where these buys are. And again, I'm kind of steering more towards, if you can find the right unit, a good older concrete unit in the West End. And again, as far as concrete and wood frame goes, I've always try and steer my buyers towards concrete whenever possible. If it is wood frame and it was built 15, 20, 25 years ago, you're probably going to want to have that building rain screened. If they haven't, then you could have some issues down the road on it. But of course, concrete is superior in every way. It lasts longer, built better, quieter, and less remediation work down the road. I'm Owen Bigland. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.